The usage of this sticky substance during the Revolutionary War era might shock you. In 1764, a speckled monster attacked the people of Boston, Massachusetts. And this stuff was thought instrumental in stopping it. The very first person known to be struck down by that speckled monster in January of what would become the infamous year of 1764 was a man named Joseph Bulkley. On January 2nd, 1764, the Boston Board of Selectmen received the news that Joseph had succumbed to smallpox. Joseph Bulkley, a sailor who had just come in from Newfoundland, had just died at his father's house on Fish Street here in the North End. Boston town officials, in an effort to contain Joseph's remains and prevent the disease from spreading through the rest of the town, devised some specific instructions as to exactly how Joseph's body should be handled and buried. And this is where that sticky stuff that I showed you at the beginning of this video comes into play. Smallpox, that dreaded disease, scourge of humanity for millennia, was nicknamed the speckled monster. Speckled because the skin of someone suffering with it would erupt into a blistering pox, giving the appearance of spotted or speckled skin. And monster because of its severity, high fever, pain, disfigurement, and its shocking mortality rate. Smallpox sometimes carried off as many as 30% of its victims. Town gravediggers got Joseph's body into a coffin as soon as possible, and then, by order of the selectmen, after midnight only, in the dead of night, when the least number of people would be out and about on these public streets, the gravediggers removed Joseph's body from the house. The selectmen urged the gravediggers to take the utmost caution in transporting the body through these very streets in order to minimize the risk of contagion to the rest of the town. And as the gravediggers carried the body, one of them walked a ways out in front of it in order to clear the way and warn any passers-by out on these streets not to get too close, lest they risk catching smallpox themselves. And so the gravediggers came with Joseph's body up this street, headed to Copp's Hill Burying Ground, then known as the North Burying Ground. It was established in 1659 here in the North End. By the way, I forgot to point out that that is the Old North Church. And about 11 years later, 11 years from now, 1764, 2 lanterns would be hung up in that steeple in order to signify to Paul Revere, who waited on the Charlestown shore, that the British had left Boston by sea on the night of April 18th, 1775. You know I had to just get that in there, right? But before this, a very important step had to be taken. A step thought so important that the Boston Board of Selectmen ordered that it be done. because it was thought to significantly reduce the chances of smallpox spreading through the town as the body of one of its victims was being moved through the public streets. Hi everybody, it's me, Katie. Welcome back to my channel where it is all Revolutionary War all the time. And on this channel, we venture out on historical action adventures, and we visit places where events of the American Revolution actually occurred. Like here today at Copp's Hill Burying Ground in Boston, which not only does it serve as a burial site for many prominent Bostonians over the years, but, and this I had to show you even though it has nothing to do with the video we're doing today, in the distance you can see the Bunker Hill Monument in Charlestown. And if you recall, the British set up a battery on Copp's Hill. So it was from about here that they could fire cannon into the battle that was going on Charlestown Heights and firing at the redoubt which stood on top of Breed's Hill where the monument stands today. So I just wanted to show you that because I thought it was really cool that we could see it from here. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you've come back, then I'm so happy to see you again. I hope you'll consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already and coming along on the next historical action adventure. And that very important step was that before Joseph's body could even be placed in a coffin, it first had to be wrapped in a sheet coated with that very sticky stuff that I showed you at the beginning of this video. I am dreading what's coming next. I'm dreading it. So this is that mystery substance. And before I tell you what it is, if you want to guess, leave your guess in the comments below. But this substance had a very practical use in the 18th century. It was used for shipbuilding and rope making, and also, as we learned, to wrap the bodies of smallpox victims. This stuff is pine tar. It's pine tar, a natural substance derived from pine trees. And I thought I could go out and harvest some pine resin myself and see what I could do with it, but it didn't really work out so well. So I did buy this. It's 100% pure pine tar. Pine tar is the only ingredient. So before it drips everywhere, I'm going to take off this glove and then I'll show you what we're going to do. So what I have here is, I hope you can see, a bowl of the pine tar. It's very dark. I don't have any experience with pine tar. I bet some of you do. I thought it would be kind of like maple syrup, but it's not. It's very dark. And so I have a bowl of it. Oh, I also have a bit of a cut up sheet. Not a huge sheet, just a small sheet. And I have a brush. And I just kind of thought, to get a sense of the pine tar and the pine tar coated sheet, I thought I would actually coat this scrap of a sheet with pine tar, and then the part that I'm dreading is stick it on myself. So we can just kind of see what happens. All right, so again, the odor is extremely strong. It's like overpowering, really. It's much stronger than I even thought. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna brush it onto the sheet, and I have not done this. I have not even taken a practice run of it. So we're doing this all together at the same time. Wow. Oh yeah. So in preparing a sheet to be wrapped around a body, I'm sure that they would have used bigger brushes, a bigger piece of a sheet, but just for a small sense. And we know that pine tar in the 18th century, it was thought, and before, pine tar or tar water made from pine tar was thought to have healing properties. Even today, you can find pine tar soaps and pine tar salves and things like that that people buy to put on their skin, to clear skin issues. So it's interesting that pine tar was thought to somehow mitigate the smallpox virus, which, as we know, caused a terrible blistering pox on the skin. The odor is so bad. It's so notable. And it reminds me of later in the month of January 1764, a woman contracted smallpox. Her name was Mrs. Warren, not related to Joseph Warren, the revolutionary who would later die at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Although during the 1764 smallpox epidemic, Dr. Joseph Warren was a physician serving in the inoculation facility at Castle William, modern day Castle Island. So he was in the picture, but this is a different Mrs. Warren, and she contracted smallpox. And she asserted that on the night Joseph Bulkley's body was carried past her house en route to the burial, that she could smell it as it passed. And she asserted that that was how she must have caught smallpox. And I'm just kind of wondering, based on what I'm smelling here, is if part of that might have been the strong fumes from the pine tar. All right, so I've coated it. I've coated this. I hope you can see I had to raise this table. It's up on a whole bunch of books to make it high enough. All right. So this is the part that I was dreading. It's very, very sticky. The sheet has become very dark. And so my thought is just to kind of wrap it around my arm, and we'll see how it goes. Ooh, wow. Kind of a strange feeling, kind of scary to think about and to envision a whole body wrapped up in this. But it obviously sticks incredibly well. So you can imagine that such a sticky coating with such a very sticky shroud probably would have been thought to contain the virus even more. And there we go. We're back here at Copp's Hill Burying Ground, and I have not been able to locate the exact spot where Joseph Bulkley is buried. The spot might have been lost to history, or never recorded, or he never had a headstone, but I can't tell you exactly where he's buried. However, his is not the only body that lies buried here at Copp's Hill Cemetery, resting for all eternity, wrapped in a pine tar coated sheet. This is the grave of Abigail Adams. Not the Abigail Adams that we all might be more familiar with, that woman of letters born in Weymouth, Massachusetts, who later married Revolutionary John Adams. This Abigail Adams was the second known victim of the smallpox epidemic in Boston in 1764. And her body, like Joseph's, was wrapped in a pine tar coated sheet, brought here to the Copp's Hill Burying Ground and buried in the middle of the night. So this whole process, the wrapping of the bodies in pine tar coated sheets, and the midnight burials, and even the cleansing of the houses in which Joseph and Abigail passed away. The windows of those houses were ordered to be cracked open after midnight and then closed before dawn in an effort to air out the house. And the walls of the rooms in which smallpox victims passed away had to be washed down multiple times, and then the rooms fumigated with brimstone and frankincense. And this whole process became standard for other smallpox victims that passed away after Joseph and Abigail did during the 1764 Boston smallpox epidemic. Now, I can think of another 18th century use for pine tar, which we today might consider somewhat unusual. But can you? If so, leave a like and a comment below. For more Revolutionary War content, I hope you'll watch this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.